July 18th, 2026. Hello, I am John Michael Chambers, and welcome back to Bosi Briefs. I want to thank you for joining us. This program publishes every other Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern, where retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bosi weighs in on the current events. Please share these episodes and far and wide, and subscribe for free at jmcbroadcasting.com. Now, tonight, we're going to take a break from our typical Bosi Briefs template, where we cover several of the news events that are noteworthy of commentary from an analysis from Ricardo, and focus a bit on the speech of President Trump. But tonight we're going to break down the speech made by President Trump concerning election theft, what this means, and what we can expect moving forward in the rest of 2026. A couple of quick announcements. Sheila Holm, mark your calendars, July 30th, 8 p.m. Eastern, will be in our private Zoom room strictly and solely to answer your questions for 1 hour. I'll be on screen as your host. This is live, July 30th, 8 p.m. Eastern, for premium members at JMC Broadcasting. Visit the website, our website, click on Premium Portal. If this is a fit for you, we do look forward to seeing you there on July 30th at 8 p.m. Now, Juan O'Savin and his Joint Chief of Staff, retired Lieutenant Colonel from the Marines, Matt Meck, are putting together the Storm Summit, Ahern Hotel, Las Vegas, same place as the Fraud Summit, September 10th through 13th. The last summit sold out. This one more than likely will as well. September 10th through September 13th. Get your tickets. Visit stormsummit.us. Take a look at the panel that Juan has assembled. You've got Wayne Allen Root. You've got James O'Keefe, Steve Bannon, Tina Peters, Roseanne Barr, Joe Hoft. You've got, just randomly looking at the screen, I see Colonel Schaefer. I see Sheriff Richard Mack, Peter Tickton. You've got quite the lineup here. Of course, Juan O'Savin will be your humble host. This is going to be an incredible Storm Summit. They're going to be talking about election theft, sound money, and justice, the three topics that have consumed us for these last 10 years, and that are coming to a head here right now. And thank goodness for that. Storm Summit, September 10th. Juan O'Savin, be there. All right, and for those that can't be there, we will be streaming it live as we did the Fraud Summit. So let me do a bit of a monologue, and then we're going to bring in Ricardo Bosi, who's also going to be talking about, after we analyze the President Trump speech, we're going to be talking about a title called From Bad Art to Godlessness. So stay tuned for that. All right, the curtain is rising on a reality most are not ready to accept. Off-world revelations are accelerating, not as a drip feed of controlled disclosure, but as a flood of truth that the gatekeepers can no longer contain. The same intelligence apparatus that hid JFK, Epstein, and the financial collapse also hid what orbits above us, and that architecture is crumbling in real time. The next war is not what the media is telling you. It is not between nations in the traditional sense. It is between the forces of deception and the forces of truth. It is a war for consciousness, for sovereignty, and for the soul of humanity itself. And yet, beyond the chaos, beyond the revelations, beyond the shifting battle lines, there is something else, the dawning. That's the key word, the dawning of the golden age. Not a slogan, a destination, a period of peace, prosperity, and human flourishing that has been prophesized, prepared for, and now finally is within reach. Do you trust in God? Then you must trust in his timing, his methods, his selection of the vessels. God does not make mistakes. He does not choose the wrong person for the right moment. He does not misplace his anointing. He does not abandon his people in their hour of need. President Donald Trump, anointed, not by men, not by parties, by something older, something deeper, something that transcends the noise of this political arena. White hats and military in action, not as a political faction, as a resistance against those who would dismantle the republic from within. They are not perfect men. They are faithful men. And that is what this moment requires. So, trust in God, then trust the plan. Not because you see every piece of the puzzle, because you see the hand of the puzzle maker. Trust is not the absence of questions. It is the presence of conviction. The conviction that what you have witnessed, the exposures, the arrests, the financial convulsions, the off-world revelations are not random. They are orchestrated. Trust the plan. The same plan that brought you this far in this game that we have been through, the same plan that brought us this far will carry you to the end. Yes, the dawn is breaking, and we are not at the end of the story. We are at the threshold of the very next chapter. The old world is dying. Thank goodness for that. The new one is being born. And those who have prepared spiritually, mentally, materially will not just survive this transition, but they will lead. So off-world revelations, the next war, the dawn of the golden age, it is all converging, and you were made for this very moment. So when the noise peaks and the confusion multiplies, remember, God does not make mistakes. The plan does not fail. And the golden age is not a fantasy, it is a promise. So stay the course, stay and live in light, love, and in truth. And for those coming aboard, who is Ricardo Bosi? Well, Ricardo Bosi is an international treasure, former Australian Army Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel who served 24 years in the Australian Army. He is a national leader of Australia One Party. Please welcome back retired Lieutenant Colonel and my good friend, Mr. Ricardo Bosi. Your mic is muted.
I need to try that again. Hi, John. Thanks very much for your very kind invitation. Always a pleasure to see you.
Thank you, sir. Good to see you. I'm very excited to get your analysis on President Trump's speech. This was, you've got some folks out there in our space who are like, oh, another nothing burger from the president. No, look in the mirror. What expectations did you have? All right. You're looking for an EBS. You're looking for an arrest of Obama. You're looking for something else. Expect the unexpected is about all we should expect. And so before I get into the crux of this, what's your comment about what I've just stated? Nothing burger in the speech? That was far from a nothing burger as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, there's plenty of meat for everybody in that if they're wanting to look for it. And it's a consistent message. I won't stay long, and I want you to get into the clips. But the 2020 election has been the pivotal event. And everyone's been saying, oh, Trump's just a bad loser. Trump can't win a free and fair election. Not the point. Everything pivots on this moment. Everything pivots on this event. And that's why it's so critical. And what he said was not only important for the United States, but the effects are going to ripple out internationally. But we'll get onto that very shortly. So this is big, and there was plenty of beef in this burger.
Well, thank you very much. And it's not been made at McDonald's. This is real beef, real cattle, grass-fed. Okay, I'm going to digress just for a moment, and then we're going to really launch our broadcast here with Ricardo and President Trump. But first, put up image speech 1 and 2. I stated this numerous times in a book I wrote in I stated in the, thank you. That's the image I'm looking for. You threw me off, producer. Thank you. You see these images up on the screen. What is that? Well, that's at the Doral, President Trump's place there in South Florida, where, I was a speaker on the platform, the General Flynn Clay Clark Reawakened Tour, and we were a media partner from day one. And that was my farewell speech. I was not physically well, and I was coming over to Thailand to sail into God's sunset, but God had a different plan for me, and so did Dr. Mark Sherwood, and I got better, and so here I am today. But you know what? The reason I'm invoking this is because and I don't mind saying this now, we've advanced far enough here. This is 6 years later. During the Reawaken tour, I really pretty much can say I was the only one in the beginning that would discuss election theft and call it out for what it was. And it was hush at that time, if you remember. They pulled Mike Lindell's mic on Newsmax when he started talking about Dominion. In the powers that be that ran these events, the Clay Clark General Flynn tour, it was unspoken but known. You don't go there. Don't go there yet, right? Well, I went there. I pushed the envelope, and they kept me on the stage. I was grateful for that. But I talked about election theft a long time ago. So I stated this numerous times in 2020 and beyond, that the complicit media is in violation of U.S. Code Section 2384 and 2385 for election interference, because they knowingly reported false information, thus aiding and abetting the enemy in disrupting a presidency and overthrowing elections. There's a reason I went back into the past here, because we're going to come into the present and strip this down in President Trump's speech. So my guess as to what's going to happen is President Trump, this speech and declassification expose both foreign and domestic interference in our elections. This will also serve as pressure for the Senate to pass the Save America Act, which in my opinion won't pass. The Senate will still not pass it, and after Trump proves that he exercised every option before going the executive route, he will take actions in terms of declaration of national election emergency to secure free and fair elections in November's midterms, or they may very well simply suspend elections for a host of reasons Ricardo will break down under officially declared, perhaps, global martial law until such time we are prepared and secured before we vote again in America. We had an image of my book up there a moment ago. Let's put that back. I wrote about these elections. This book was written the tail end, last quarter of 2016, and published in February 2017, 5-star rated on Amazon. And I have a chapter in there called Free and Fair Elections. Shortly in that thereafter, I also interviewed Mary Fanning on Scorecard, Hammer and Scorecard. In this book, I pretty much laid down what was going on then, as we see now revealed in President Trump's speech. So what I know for sure is that I don't believe we will have another stolen election in my lifetime. The deep state is terrified. And so let's put up the image of ABC. There we have it. Now, look, we know what's happened. NBC, CBS, ABC, and I understand perhaps even CNN did not broadcast it live while it was happening. It had been reported that President Trump called for U.S. television networks that did not broadcast his primetime speech on election security to have their licenses revoked, accusing them of participating in a, quote, plot to suppress the president's message to the nation and the world. The FCC, now the counter narrative to that, coming more from the other side, states, well, the FCC has just sent warnings to communists, let's call it CNN, ABC, CBS, and NBC, for not covering the presidential address is required, they say, by their on-air charters. However, the remarks came after 2 of the 3 major U.S. broadcast networks, along with CNN, that chose not to air the address on their primary channels. While broadcasters have historically carried presidential speeches on matters of national importance, the other side says they are not legally required to do so. Above my pay grade, let's see how it plays out. But media law experts note that U.S. networks are protected by the First Amendment and have broad editorial discretion over what they choose to broadcast. So we'll have Ricardo comment on all this in just a moment. Let's put up the next image, Newsmax. This I picked up this morning. Coca-Cola and General Motors, as reported, needs to be researched. As General Motors have pulled all their ads from ABC and NBC. Go woke, go broke. So we have a mismatch, a hodgepodge, if you will, of conflicting views concerning laws, FCC, media. But one thing we know for sure, you want to expose yourself, CNBC, NBC, ABC, CBS, pick your letters, by not running a presidential speech of such importance. Anyone that's half awake understands what that means. They're hanging on to the last end to conceal the truths, because they, as I said, in U.S. Code 2384, 2385, are complicit at best for what they did and didn't do, knowing the truth. And now they don't want this truth to come out. So anyway, before we start running the clips of the speech and have Ricardo break it down, please, sir, provide any commentary you choose on what I have just stated.
Yeah, thanks, John. Again, this is the election, and now the election is going to wrap up just about everybody that needs to be wrapped up in terms of criminal behavior. Now, you remember that Robert David Steele famously said, "We have it all." The NSA has it all. So if, for example, the two major news networks, and this is for show, so we understand that, folks, but they're refusing to do to broadcast it. It causes a bit of a stink. But to be honest, most people will sort of just brush it off and go, well, that's just the anti-Trump media. But behind that, you can guarantee that the communications that established the fact that the media knew exactly what they were doing, it's not just a choice not to run the story. This is actually, as you said, John, it's a cover-up. And where's the evidence of the cover-up? NSA has all the comms to do that. So this is now maneuvering these two major networks into an ambush, a surprise surprise attack by a force lying in wait on a temporarily halted or moving enemy. That's what they're doing. They're moving him into the killing ground. And so this is a slow move forward so that people can start to get a bit interested in what's going on. Because as I said, in and of itself, people would dismiss it. But this is key, because now they're going to be found guilty of high crimes. And that's the good news.
Yes. Well, thank you, sir. So let's get into the red meat here. And unlike those networks, we're going to rebroadcast segments of our Commander-in-Chief, Executive Branch President Donald J. Trump. Run the clip.
Tonight, I'm announcing the immediate declassification and release of critical intelligence revealing shocking vulnerabilities in our election infrastructure. This evidence shows that the election system we have dangerously exposes, and really exposes like levels never thought possible, to hacking, exploitation, and foreign interference. Just as disturbingly, this vital information has for many years been covered up and hidden from you, the American people, our beautiful, our great American people. But that all changes right now. The documents we will release starting tonight have been gathered by the White House Government Transparency Task Force, a great group of people, along with the staff of the President's Intelligence Advisory Board, supported by our top intelligence agency chiefs, who have all personally reviewed the findings. We are presenting this evening and fully confirmed their authenticity. You can see these documents for yourself at whitehouse.gov. That's whitehouse.gov. Go check it out. Our purpose in disclosing this information is not to weaken confidence in election, but to earn that confidence by confronting vulnerabilities and correcting them very, very quickly. And that's what we're doing.
So President Trump spoke about declassification. Ricardo, sir, what's your commentary and analysis of that clip?
Let me take the adversary's position first. I can hear them yelling, "What about the Epstein files?" Now, let me say something controversial here. Which is the center of gravity right now? The center of gravity being in a war at the strategic level, the one thing you must control or get a result from, and without which you cannot win. Is it the Epstein files or is it the election? Now, as horrific the Epstein files are, and you can include up to and including the adrenochrome production and distribution, and the millions of children sacrificed for that. Which is worse, a corrupt election or all of that Epstein files information? Now, if you say Epstein files, you're thinking at the wrong level, because that whole Epstein files, the blackmail, the adrenochrome production, the torture and murder of millions of children is predicated on a corrupt government. You can remove Epstein and all the crooks and leave the corrupt government in place. It'll be right back the next day. The center of gravity right now is the election. And if it bores you, tough. Welcome to strategic thinking. The major target must be taken out, and the parts of that machine must be destroyed. And it's the elections. And it's not just the US. And I might be jumping ahead of here, but every country suffers exactly the same. Every country is run by corrupted politicians. Every country is under control. And unless the US system is cleaned up and pointed out to be corrupt, and every other country, and as I said, this is going to ripple internationally, legally as well, thanks to the fast footwork the White Hats did a few years back in getting control of every nation. That's why they're turning up when Trump says jump, they jump. It's going to ripple out legally across the entire planet. None of us on this planet will be free unless we get elections, unless we get honest elections. So the Epstein files can wait. As gruesome as that sounds, welcome to the brutal mathematics of war. This is the level of thinking that is necessary to understand what's going on. If you fight it, you'll never get it. If you understand it, you'll understand it. And that's the whole point here, right now. So this is the center of gravity. The Epstein files can wait. Now, DJT is going to release documents. They'll be redacted. There'll be frustrations. There'll be annoyances. Not the point. This is not a shot across the bow. This is a shot straight amidships into the deep state. What's remaining of it, and those who still believe they have some power, which is part of the act. This is a shot right to their midships, and their vessel is going down. They know it. The moment they lose political control, the impression, the understanding that the people must obey the polity, once that's gone, it's over. And now this is going to follow down the track. The polity will be dismantled. The media will be dismantled. The whole edifice, everything, the funding, the rights, everything is being wrapped up in this one major event. In Australia, no different. We contested 6 elections in 5 years at the state and federal level. We had a forensic engineer analyze the returns. For the mathematicians amongst you, the standard deviation was at 6 sigma, almost impossible. 1 billion to 1 against the results that they got, particularly when we went booth by booth. It was near on impossible. It was so improbable as to be impossible to get those results. We have the evidence. That's just little old Australia, the carbuncle on the arse of the planet. But it's here, it's in the United States, it's in the Western Hemisphere, it's everywhere. So this is the center of gravity. This election should be riveting your attention. Follow it. Because when the election truth comes out, it delegitimizes everything that has happened for the longest possible time. The entire system needs to be rehabilitated. Same in Australia. What DJT is talking about in the US, we were talking about years ago. The Australian National Audit Office did an audit of our Australian Electoral Commission, published a report, multiple recommendations, none of which were actioned by the Australian Electoral Commission. Poisoned electoral rolls, dead people that didn't exist on streets that didn't exist, in houses that didn't exist. And the Labor Party, the alleged party of the workers, were boasting that they could win anything, anytime, anywhere. They actually flipped enough seats to win an election. The Liberal Party, the alleged Conservatives, they benefited too, so they don't care, and they're controlled by the same people at the top, 2 wings of the same bird. So this has been going on for decades. The documents in Australia indicate that there's never been a fair election in 100 years. Wow. This is the center of gravity, and that's why this is more important, believe it or not, than Epstein file and everything else that you can think of.
Brilliant and keen analysis from Ricardo Bosi. Thank you, sir. And a couple of quick follow-ups in support of the narrative. 71 other countries, as you well know, besides America, Australia, and 72 countries, we're told altogether, in recent years have had their elections stolen. This is why Awano Savin's going to be addressing that with the incredible panel at the summit. Second thing, I'm here in Thailand, Myanmar, formerly Burma, is a neighboring country. Well, we know they're on the list. They're one of the countries some years back that also had their elections stolen and overthrown, and it's wreaked havoc in that country right now. And they come across the border legally into Thailand because Thailand doesn't allow their borders to be like ours was during the Otto Pen presidency. But they come over here legally, and they're getting jobs to support their country. So elections have consequences, and corrupt elections have consequences, and it disrupts people's lives and makes this place a prison planet, thus the Epstein just mentioned. But anyway, let's move on. Thank you, Ricardo. President spoke of declassification. Now, in this clip, he's going to speak about the documents. Run the clip.
The documents cover 5 major areas of concern. First, they show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China assigned a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project. Compounding the travesty, the second set of documents we are releasing reveals that members of the deep state, very, very famous group of people, in many cases, in our intelligence agency work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling, covering it up from both the president and the American people like nobody thought was possible. U.S. spy agencies began learning about the compromise of voter registration files in 2020 when they discovered that tens of millions of voter data, think of that, tens of millions of voters' data in 18 states have been bought, stolen, or hacked by China. Yet those responsible for sounding the alarm instead kept the information secret and hidden. They did not disclose to me as president or to anyone else, and to the best of our knowledge, they did not inform Congress. In fact, all they kept saying is, this is the most secure election in the history of our country, a standard, very pat line that was divvied out to say. The cover-up of this colossal security breach is even more disturbing in light of the additional information showing that China engaged in other election-related activities to undermine my first administration and our 2020 campaign. They did not want, and they just didn't want it. They fought like hell not to have it, Donald Trump, to win, and for good reason. As the documents we are releasing show, CIA reporting explicitly stated, and I quote, in mid-2018, the Chinese Communist Party's policy was to leverage all domestic and foreign elements that were opposed to the U.S. president in an effort to reduce the U.S. president's votes and make him resign or prevent his re-election. Isn't that nice? Also, in mid-2018, China was working to influence the results of the U.S. midterm elections and later the results of the 2020 presidential election itself. Separately, in mid-2019, the Chinese government's strategy against the United States was focused on undermining domestic confidence in the U.S. president. They wanted to just make you sound like your president wasn't so hot, when actually your president has done a great job, and they did everything possible to do exactly that. Going on, this document says, and this is by the CIA, the strategy included efforts to use Chinese contacts with big U.S. companies to influence U.S. business leaders to turn against the President of the United States of America. The Chinese government sought to identify U.S. journalists who had reported negatively on the U.S. President and pay them large sums of money to write more negative articles about him, as many as they could, and they didn't care what they said. The Chinese government wanted U.S. president to lose the next election, and the reason they wanted me to lose is because they knew I was wise to them, charged them billions and billions of dollars worth of tariffs, and built the strongest military anywhere in the world. We have the strongest military anywhere in the world. These are exact quotes from the CIA reporting.
Colonel Bosi, take it away.
Everything that the president just enunciated are several forms of war against, not against the United States, not against Donald Trump, not against the Republican Party, against the American people. Individually, you have been personally attacked by China. In every one of those instances of Chinese action, you have been personally attacked. You are the source of law in your country. We're not in Australia. We hope to be there at some point, but you are the source of law, and you have been personally attacked. You should be furious. This act of war has been perpetrated, and those who assisted for a few shekels in writing articles, in concealing the truth, are guilty of treason. I hope you've got a whole lot of gibbets over there in the US, because you're going to need them. This is treason, pure and simple. At best sedition, but more than that, it's treason. And this is imperative that not just the United States understands, the rest of the world understands. This has been an attack on your life, your liberty, your property, and your right to pursue your own happiness. This has been a personal attack against you, the people, against we, the people. Everything he said is an act of war. Now, does it fall under the Geneva Convention definitions? No. And that's the way the bad guys like it. Oh, no. It's got to be politically motivated violence. It's, for terrorism, it's got to be violent. What's more violent than taking your right to determine your future? Just because it was done with a telegram, an email, a bribe, a concealed story, makes no difference. People like to describe violence in many ways. This is a massive act of violence against every American. You should be up in arms. And fortunately for you, you've got the Second Amendment to do it. But don't do it just yet. The White House has got it under control. But understand this, everything the president just explained is part of an act of war. And we'll talk about total war a bit later, I think.
Thank you, sir. Now, the next clip speaks to information omitted in the presidential briefing. Let's run the clip to my producer.
The name of the person doing the quote is now under review, but it gets even worse. Raw intelligence obtained by the FBI in 2020, yet buried by rogue bureaucrats, stated that China's activities even included an attempt to manufacture illegal ballots for Joe Biden. Documents show that during this period, dozens of significant CIA and NSA reports about China's election targeting were kept out of the presidential briefing. These were briefings I would get almost every day. Everything was kept out that was of importance. One email among intelligence analysts admitted that they had, quote, deliberately massaged the presidential daily briefing to withhold information regarding Chinese activities related to the election. Another official inside the FBI wrote that she was running, quote, a shadow government, unquote, to keep intelligence about China's election meddling from becoming known and to keep it away from the honorable press.
Honorable press. Take it away, Ricardo.
There's an oxymoron if ever I heard one.
No kidding.
This is designed now to terrify the remainder, to get them to panic. The remaining deep staters who are still in place, thinking they still have a chance, which is part of the White Hat strategy. Let them believe they're safe, but now they're rattling the cage, and they, without mentioning the names, they know exactly who's going to be. They know the names. They're pursuing them. This is to terrify the remainder and get them to panic. And when your adversaries panic, they make mistakes. That's what's going on now.
Thank you, sir. Let's listen to the president talk about burn bags.
Other officials who witnessed such efforts perceived the motivations to be blatantly political. Recently, we found significant numbers of burn bags in formation, and this is a group of bags that were used to destroy information given by President Barack Hussein Obama to be burned. It was supposed to be burned. These bags were supposed to be at a different level by different people, incinerated and checked, but it never happened. Maybe we got lucky. We believe this was not done on purpose, but rather through gross incompetence of the people that were supposed to burn the bags.
Someone once said that the criminal always leaves evidence at the scene of the crime. Well, there you have that. Take it away, sir.
Yeah, incompetence. I'm sorry. I understand there's a narrative to be sold, but I don't believe that for a second. That could be true. Could be true. But I think what's actually happened is that it was part of an operation a long time ago because the evidence was required to be had. Now, burn bags. Let me give you a story about burn bags. This is how important burn bags are. In Australia, when there was a Liberal government, that's our alleged Conservative party, when they were in power, they would have the burn bags or shredding, whatever it is, the burn bags were picked up by a private contractor and they had to be destroyed for security reasons, which is fair enough, but I don't know why you'd give it to a private contractor. Well, guess who the contractor was? That was a company established by the Labor Party, which is the other side of politics, the alleged Workers' Party, and they would get the burn bags and then get all the documents and then collect the data and do what they needed to do. That's the bullshit about burn bags. That's, and excuse the color of the salty language, but that's what really goes on. Do you really think you can trust a private company without the sort of Damocles hanging firmly over their heads with a very thin thread that if you mess up, this is treason, you die? That's how you get the burn bags burnt, but that doesn't happen. This fiction that private enterprise can do everything, no, it can't. And national security is definitely not one of them because they're not willing to die for their beliefs. They're willing to make millions of dollars building equipment for you, but they won't risk their own lives. So the burn bag issue is critical, it's key, but understand this, it's a game, ladies and gentlemen. If you think that well-trained individuals are doing a stellar job in your government, you need to stop smoking that marijuana. It's just not happening.
Thank you. Now the president in this next clip is going to speak about investigations and charges. Let's run the clip.
But the findings are stunning. Today, I'm asking the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Department of Justice, the FBI, and the CIA to investigate how and why such crucial information was hidden, to fire those involved in the cover-up, and to file criminal charges, if appropriate, against these people.
What kind of narrative is the president building here, sir? Go ahead.
You've nailed it, John. That's exactly what's happening. It's now a whole of government approach. In the old days, what they do is they divvy up the responsibility between the various departments in order to slow walk it through, so nothing ever happened. So by the time the new news cycle had appeared, people forgot about the last story. But what he's cobbling together now, and I'll give you another example shortly, is he's bringing them all together in a whole of government approach to actually prosecute the case, which is the only sensible way to advance. What is he building towards? Well, let's look at another collaboration between two departments. Department of War, Department of Justice are now working together to investigate the leaks that have been coming out of Department of War. Now, why would that seems like a sensible thing to do, but they never previously did that. They had internal investigations to do that. What he's cobbling together now is an understanding for the people that a whole of government approach will be required to fix the problem. It is so large, it is so complex, it is so interwoven that a whole of government approach is required. And when you've got DOJ and Department of War working hand in glove on one issue, it's a simple step for the DO War to step in and start playing in other areas as well, particularly as we are now talking about treason, sedition, and national security. So what I'm saying, I could be wrong, But in the military, it's called an assembly area, where you get all the forces to assemble before they form up in their combat formations and head off to the line of departure in the forming up place so they can commence their assault. So this is the assembly area, and all the departments are coming in, settling in, ready for, it's already been done, but ready to then roll out what's coming next.
Thank you, sir. Now we get into the jugular, the heart, part of the heart of the matter. There's so many pieces here. This, of course, we're talking about electronic voting machines, which is what led to Newsmax cutting Mike Lindell's mic. I'll never forget that moment. And turns out Mike Lindell was right. Dominion has backed off their lawsuit and so forth. But anyway, let's listen to the president. Electronic voting machines.
Yet concealing China's meddling was only the beginning. The third set of documents we are releasing proves that for many years, Americans were blatantly lied to about the security of our election infrastructure, including electronic voting machines and ballot counting systems, dishonest, almost all. They're vulnerable and they're easily compromised, and people within our government knew that. Tonight, we're publishing a series of previously classified U.S. intelligence community assessments and other reports proving that our government has long known these machines are extremely exposed to attack. As one assessment states, we judge that the United States adversaries, including at a minimum Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, as well as non-state groups, have the capability to compromise U.S. election infrastructure. That's unquote, but that's some statement, isn't it? Made by supposedly great patriots of our country. The document goes on to further state that, quote, we assess that centralized election-related data repositories, such as voter registration databases, poll books, and other official election websites, are most vulnerable to exploitation, and adversaries could use this access to these systems to disrupt election processes within the United States of America. Tonight, we're releasing all of those findings, and spanning from January 2020 to June 2026. This is a cyber threat aimed at the very heart of our democracy. Many people have questioned whether it could actually be possible to electronically manipulate vote totals or change election results on these terrible machines. Today, we are releasing documents that show the CIA obtained reporting of a specific plot to do a big number in favor of the corrupt Maduro regime in Venezuela. And that's exactly what happened, conspiring to digitally rig their own country's elections in 2020, and that's what they did. This reporting included precise details about methods to regime develop to digitally alter vote totals in ways that could not be detected even with an audit, no matter how deep they went. This intelligence underscores why we must take urgent action to ensure that our own system can never, ever be hacked or compromised like it was in the past.
What an explosive and powerful segment. Your analysis, Colonel Bosi.
Evidence, evidence, evidence. This is old news. It's just old news. Now it's only coming out now. It's only coming out now because you've got a president that wants the truth out to the people, the source of law in your country. It's old news. He then presents the evidence of Maduro, and I can give you evidence here as well. The Chinese government was given to the very first point you mentioned about electoral details of electors. They were provided, one of our states, and I'm sure the others did the same, but one of our states, Queensland, handed China the entire electoral roll for that state of Queensland. China was also then used to help count the votes. We have a complex voting system here where, for example, Xerox, and I'm not suggesting Xerox is a corrupt company, but hey, maybe somebody is, where they get to count the Senate votes. And it's such a complex system that they need machines to do it, and it physically can't be done by hand. It's all by design. It's to wear you out, so you get tired of listening to the stories and just say, "Oh, look, I don't care anymore." And that's what they want. The corrupted system. Blind Freddy can see that a machine can be used to rig the election, and they want you to trust them. That's the crooks, that is. Absolutely not. Now, I never tire of explaining to people how simple the solutions to these insoluble problems are. Oh my God, there's no solution to this. There's always a solution. Oh, the war on drugs. I'll get to a point in a minute. The war on drugs, it can't be won, so let's legalize the drugs and get tax paid on it. Are you fucking insane? Really? Of course the war on drugs hasn't been won because it was never fought. They never wanted it done. They just wanted to make you stupefied. What's that got to do with it? There's a solution for everything. Fight the war on drugs, you'll win. Start shooting the bastards that are killing your country, you'll win. Now, with elections, but it's so complex, it's so tough. Well, little old Australia came up with a solution. Part of the answer was given to me at a rally. I gave 2 parts and somebody yelled out, "What about this?" And we had a 3-part solution. How's this for a solution? Registered documents, like money, with a registered number, but not actually attached to an individual's name, but as a registered number. So you get to vote, and you get this piece of paper, and it's in automatic triplicate. You write on it. You keep 1 copy. That's your copy. The second copy goes into a counting machine. This is not a problem. The third copy is then stored away in a separate secure area for verification later. Now, when the ballot goes through the machine, real time, it gets punched up onto the screen that you can watch. And so each elector, doesn't matter how many there are, can look it up and go, my ballot number was 6742218. Great, no problem. I punch that number in, bang. This ballot voted for this candidate. And you can see real time the result of your vote. And you've got the evidence. You've got, to quote the line, you've got the receipt. How tough is that? It's not tough. Every problem they're telling you is too difficult to solve could be solved in 2.5 minutes with someone with half a brain. Unfortunately, black hats don't have half a brain. But there you go. So the problem, the issue is this. Everything you've heard tonight about the election this is a double beef burger. It's all in there. You've got to understand what you're hearing. And when the election issue is dealt with, everything else falls apart. Because the legitimacy of everything that's been done to you for 50, 60, 70, 80 years, but let's just go back to Obama. Everything that's been done is delegitimized. The only legitimate you've had is Donald Trump. The cascading effect of that is just breathtaking. So there you go. It's been if someone said there was no meat in this burger, they weren't chewing hard enough.
Well, we're moving away from double beef burgers to big fat Australian steaks at this point. Let's listen to the president discuss Michigan here in this next brief clip.
The 4th set of documents reveals that even when significant evidence of fraud has been detected, it has been buried and covered up. Among the disclosures tonight are FBI files detailing evidence of alleged fraud by a large-scale voter registration operation in Michigan. In 2020, Michigan State Police raided a Democrat Get Out the Vote organization, corrupt group in Muskegon. And we're so concerned by what they found. They were just so concerned, they couldn't believe it, actually, that they contacted the FBI in Detroit. The documents state that some canvassers admitted to FBI agents that they signed voter registration forms in other people's names, submitted fraudulent registration for people who did not exist, and received gift cards tied to their number of applications that they produced. In other words, it was pay, play, and cheat. The FBI agents working on the case believe that crimes were committed, yet the Biden Department of Justice slow-walked the investigation and killed it. Tonight, I'm asking the FBI director to ensure that the matter is fully investigated and to work with the Department of Justice to prosecute those responsible for any crimes.
Yeah, I'm reminded
What do you see there?
when Obama won. Yeah, I remember when Obama won his first election. the battle cry was he had a better ground game. He had an excellent ground game. Obama had the ground game, What they meant to say was they had corrupted people harvesting votes and defrauding the American people. This has been going on since forever, folks. They don't let NFL games get a result that they don't want. You think they're going to let the most powerful position in the land go to somebody on a whim or a bit of luck? The people at the top never lose. They never lose. They back both sides, and the side that they want to win will win. That's it. You haven't had a free and fair election in I don't know how long. Certainly in Australia over 100 years, but I'm guessing it might be pretty much the same in the US. But once again, this is the point that the president's making. Votes for sale, votes for sale, votes for sale. Now, can you arrest the people doing it? Sure. Can you arrest the organization? Absolutely. Where's the money coming from? Where's the money coming from? Wars cost money, whether it's ISIS driving Toyotas down the main drag with 50 cals in the back. Who provided that? Toyota. Who provided the guns? Some gun runner. It all costs money. To rig an election costs money. Where's the money coming from? So he's got a big arrow going, look down here. This is where we're heading.
Absolutely. Thank you. The president now takes on non-citizens voting. Run the clip.
Finally, to reveal just how vulnerable our elections continue to be, we are releasing the results of a stunning investigation by the Department of Homeland Security. According to the DHS review, state voter rolls and public records, they identified approximately 278,000 non-citizens who are registered to vote in federal elections. Since Democrat states refuse to share their voter files, the real number is actually much higher than that. Yet, even this limited analysis found more than 250,000 foreigners illegally registered to vote.
Boy, talk about revealing information and circling the wagons. Woo! Go ahead, sir. Take that on.
Oh, man. Illegals voting, no proof required. The one thing that makes me pause is why the American people didn't stand up a whole lot sooner, just on this issue. Just on this issue. It's insane that they didn't press their elected representatives to fix the problem. No ID required to vote. But then again, people say, oh, well, I'm not interested in politics. What was the old story, John? You and I are both old enough. Never talk about religion and politics because it upsets people. Well, in our family, we only spoke about religion and politics because it's the only thing that matters. Who cares who on the football on the weekend? We're talking about the future of the planet. And so people have to snap out of that nonsense and realize they have a role to play. But no registration required to vote. What was the old story? Blacks, it's disadvantaging blacks by asking them to provide a driver's license because they can't do it. They don't know how to use computers. There you go.
Yep.
It's just breathtaking. But anyway,
Okay.
Save America Act is going to get passed or not. It'll be interesting because if it doesn't, they're setting up the midterms not to occur. So the House has passed it, 3 times now? The Senate, are they going to pass it? Highly unlikely. Could they pass it? Well, what did the leader of the House do? There was the which act was it they passed? And he attached a money bill to it, an appropriations bill, which means all it needs is a simple majority, which is more easily achieved in the Senate. So if they wanted the Save America Act passed in the Senate, just attach another appropriations bill. But they're not doing that. Why? Because they're setting up the Senate not to pass it, which brings into question any result from an illegitimate election, which it would be, from voter rolls to you name it. They're setting the ground for the midterms not to occur and have the real evidence that there's a reason why they shouldn't occur.
Interesting. So as you war game that out, if I'm understanding you correctly, more than likely, we're speculating, the SAVE Act won't be passed. You've just invoked that, if I understood correctly, as actually part of the strategy. And then if it doesn't pass, this is a question I have just for clarity for me and obviously for those listening. assuming it doesn't pass, I see two options: declaration of national emergency pertaining to elections, assuring we have voter, ID and all the standard protocols, punch the ballot, count the vote, count them in 24 hours, and there's your winner. Or that's one choice. Or, well, we're not going to do that for a host of reasons. And if we don't, what are those host of reasons? And what would be the third potential option? And that would be the suspension, which Juan O'Savin has speculated upon, deferral and delay of the midterm elections. Which of those two in your crystal ball do you think would happen if the SAVE Act doesn't pass, and why?
I apply the old explosives formula: P for plenty, use it all, do it all. No one event is going to attract everyone's attention. As you know, look, some people vote for some people because they've got, a large set of breasts. Some people vote for people because they like the color of their lipstick. Some people vote because somebody's got ovaries. People vote because whatever. And the market segment breakdown is so finite. It's finite. It's so fine that there are multiple messages that have to be got through. The last one we've already agreed many times. It's the money. That's the one thing that'll bring everyone together. But all of this is going to occur because different reasons have to be given to different people for them to get on board and say, for God's sake, somebody do something. That final frustration must be so profound that even relatives of mine that are so asleep, even they will jump up and down and say, for God's sake, somebody do something. We can't vote. We've got no money in the bank. The people are this, the people are that. So it's going to be P for plenty. The crescendo will be unbearable. That's my prediction.
Thank you. Let me add this in real quick, and then we're going to continue on the trajectory as we wind down the segments of the president's speech. You have many things going to be occurring, in my humble opinion, between now and November's midterm elections, clearly off the heels of this speech and all the things that are now going to be pursued in the Justice Department, and the adjudications and results of the justice hearings, and the things that are going to transpire. All roads lead to Obama. We've heard that from the president. And one can, at least I'm connecting dots, that the activities off the heels of this speech and other things that are going on, and we sure have a lot of things going on, they're going to really build up momentum between now and Election Day, raising public awareness. Although many of our viewers, as you stated before, we've known about these things, but the culmination of the activities that are going to now take place between now and the midterms might give pause and reason to pause the midterms in and of itself. What condition will the country be in? What move needs to be made by the military in charge that maybe don't even pertain to the elections themselves that would be cause to suspend it? I'm being a bit elusive, but does my question make any sense to you? And if so, please comment on it. If not, I'll clarify it.
The honest answer is I don't know. And that's why I think it'll all be done. We've really got to understand this. The demand for action must be unequivocal from every aspect of society. So the White Hats have got many levers that they can pull. They can pull all of them. They can pull some of them. They can sequence some of them. But what they are aiming for is an unequivocal demand for action, even from the most dyed-in-the-wool, Trump-hating, peaceniks, communists. So whatever will get the people to that point is what the White Hats will do. Specifically, I can't say, but that's the end state they need. They absolutely need that. Absent that unequivocal call, then anything they do will be questionable for the rest of time, the rest of history. This must be by acclaim, the old way of voting. By acclaim, the nation says, for God's sake, Donald, do something.
Understood. Thank you, sir. The system is broken, and the president makes that very clear in this next segment.
Put together, these disclosures reveal an election system so broken and so vulnerable that no one can possibly defend it. It is not defensible. Hundreds of millions of U.S. voter files are in the hands of foreign governments. Our machines and ballot counting systems are exposed to hacking and manipulation and corruption. China and other countries have been trying to meddle in our elections. Evidence of fraud has been buried. Hundreds of thousands of non-citizens and dead people are listed and active on the voter rolls, and yet we still have elections with no voter ID, no proof of citizenship, and tens of millions of ballots floating aimlessly through the mail. As one example of the insanity, California's recent election for mayor of LA and governor was held on June 2nd, a long time ago, but it was just completed a few days ago on July 10th. Think of that, much more than 1 month. Took a month to count the votes. I wonder what they were doing. This is worse than any third world country. There's no third world country that has elections like we have.
Remember that little boy, I see dead people? Now he sees dead people voting. What's your take on the president's broken system portion of his speech?
Yeah, he's wrapped it up. He's wrapped it up nicely for everybody that might have fallen asleep halfway through the speech. He's put all the pieces together. The whole system's broken. And I can confirm that in Australia. We have the evidence that the system here is broken. But when we say broken, please understand, ladies and gentlemen, it's working as designed. It's broken from our perspective, but it's working beautifully as designed by the criminals who are trying to rig the system. But he's wrapped it all up and said it's done. The implication is we need a brand new system. It's got to be completely rehabilitated, rebuilt from the ground up. And if that's not done, the implication is there can be no vote. He's setting the ground.
Thank you, sir. And in the beginning of this broadcast, in my monologue, I spoke about the fake news media apparatus. Let's see what the president has to say about that in this incredible speech.
In a rare move, NBC and ABC fake news have both said that they would not cover this speech. They knew what it was about, because of the fact that they don't like the topic, because they know how corrupt our system is and they don't want to reveal it. They and others in the media are part of a plot. They want to continue this fraud for whatever reason. They want to keep it going. They want to protect the radical left. They can't have a great country, and that's true. You can't have a great country without free and fair elections. Fraud like this should mean a revocation of their licenses. They use our public multi-billion-dollar in value airways for absolutely no money. They pay nothing. All we want is honesty in our elections and honesty in reporting. They pay nothing for multi-billion-dollar assets.
Your view of that?
He's bringing them in. Yeah, absolutely. It's wonderful. He's bringing them in. He's giving the people to direct their ire at. These are the ones that have done it. These people are hurting you. These people are, this is the last gasp of the legacy media in the minds of the people. And he's just hammering each of these nails home quite convincingly.
Thank you. Let's, I believe this will be our last clip. The president speaking about secure elections and the SAVE Act.
Great damage has been done to our country. Our elections were left vulnerable to being rigged and stolen, and the trust of the American people was lost. This cannot be allowed to continue. Every American, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, or otherwise, should be able to agree that we deserve the most secure, honest, and fair election system anywhere in the world. Secure elections should be a partisan, we should be together. Democrats, Republicans, Independents, everybody. And it should not be a partisan issue. It should cause to unite us, not to divide us. This should be a cause. We should be united, not divided. In light of the brand new and irrefutable information I have revealed tonight, my administration is in the process of notifying the states whose election data was compromised by the People's Republic of China, and many others. We will be working closely to mitigate any harm, and we're taking swift action to ensure that sensitive voter data is better protected so we can never be bought, we can never be hacked, and we can never watch a stolen election again. Tomorrow, the Secretary of Homeland Security will hold a briefing to outline his department's recent work confirming cyber vulnerabilities in our electronic voting systems. They are bad. We're in the process of informing governors, senators, and members of Congress of potential issues in their states. If you look at voting today, it's in such bad shape in so many states, and we are committing to fix it. And we're also committing to be working with those states and local jurisdictions to help them fix and patch known technical vulnerabilities before the midterm elections. We have very important elections coming up. We want those elections to be honest. I've also ordered DHS to notify every state about non-citizens on their voter rolls and direct them to remove all ineligible voters from the lists immediately. But most importantly, addressing this crisis of election security demands that Congress must pass the Save America Act. How easy is that to do unless you want to cheat? The only reason you wouldn't do it is you want to cheat because your policies are so bad and your candidates are so pathetic that you can't get away or can't get elected any other way. This landmark bill requires that all voters must show photo voter ID. How simple is that? Could I have your photo, please? Photo voter ID. All voters must provide proof of citizenship. Are you a citizen of our country, please? And hopefully there will be no corrupt mail-in ballots, which if you watched California and so many other places, mail-in ballots are inherently corrupt. So you would have no mail-in ballots except for illness, disability, military deployment, or travel if you're going away on business or vacation. These reforms are urgently needed to stop the vulnerabilities that I've mentioned. To all Americans, I ask you to pick up your phone tomorrow, call your representatives in the House and Senate, and demand that they pass the Save America Act without delay. Together we will restore faith and confidence in our country, and we will be bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. Thank you. God bless you. God bless our great military, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
Powerful closing, particularly the first part of that, swinging, putting everyone on notice throughout this country. There's got to be a lot of people shaking in their shorts. What's your view of that final statement?
Sure. 3 words: trust, states' rights, and it's up to the people. The first one is trust. Trust has been completely eroded, and that's the objective. White hats have to make sure that trust is eroded where trust should be eroded. The American people, all people of the planet, have to stop trusting. They have to demand evidence before they trust anybody about anything, whether it's the polity, the bureaucracy, the judiciary, the military, the constabulary, big business, big unions, media, academia, churches, lodges, mosques, and temples. Who cares? Trust nobody. Trust yourself. That's point number 1. And the second part of trust is it is the foundation of any relationship. Without trust, you have nothing. And in fact, I think Trump at one point said, you can't have greatness without trust. It is absolutely true. Trust is the foundation upon which a relationship is built. If there is no trust, there is no relationship. It's over. So that's point number 1. The people have to stop trusting, and the people have to start trusting others and start trusting themselves. Point number 2, states' rights. Trump interfering with the states' rights to count their own elections. That has an historical background to it. Obviously, the states were separate entities. The Federalists were keen to gather them up in order to create this nation. The states saw that as an attempt to take away their powers, and so they jealously guarded their states' rights. The trouble is, this is now a national security issue. If anybody doesn't see that counting votes is a national security issue. They're either imbeciles, they're retarded, they're either imbeciles, just willfully ignorant, or corrupt. There's no other option. Now, that doesn't mean that the federal government has the right to take over states' rights in terms of counting elections, but the federal government sure should have the right to stick its nose in and say, you are running corrupt elections, and we're going to hold you to account. And the last point he made is the people. Contact your representative. That's where the power lies. Now, if the people want an election in the midterms, they better get on their phone. If they don't, you reap what you sow.
Thank you, sir. And in conclusion, as we wrap up the guts of this segment of this broadcast concerning the president's speech and the burger analogy, the nothing burger analogy, my commentary, and then we'll get yours, sir, and we're going to move into something else and wrap up our broadcast. But, you know, the president, in my view, addressed both foreign and domestic interference in our elections. When he invoked the term deep state, I think that speaks a little bit more to the internal attacks from within, and certainly he called out China, and we know what came out of the Venezuela operation. So he addressed, in my view, from a 40,000-foot view, the foreign and domestic interference in our elections. Make no mistake about it. And to those folks out there, and again, they're our friends. Although it's a nothing burger, it's this, it's that. You know, here's the thing. I understand where they're coming from by and large, because we, of course, have known about all of these things. The awakened, the digital soldiers that have gone down the rabbit holes, put some skin in the game, and looked at the truth of what's been going on in this world all this time. So I understand that they call it a nothing burger. For them, it's a nothing burger. But you, sir, have done a great analysis of the importance of this speech, and as you stated earlier on, how it even trumps the importance of accelerating the Epstein issue, which we'll get to down the line. So that's my closing comments on the nothing burger aspect. What would be your overall 40,000-foot view, closing comments of the president's speech? And then let's talk about Marco Rubio and where you'd like to take us.
Sure. To wrap up that speech, I think it was fantastic. It was important. People have to start really reading between the lines and understanding the implications of what's going on. And the fact that the election, the 2020 election, is the center of gravity for the next phase. It is fundamental. It delegitimizes the corrupted election, delegitimizes everything that's occurred since then. The implications of that are quite profound, quite profound. But most importantly, as I just said, he's put it back in the hands of the people. Donald Trump trusts the people to do the right thing. And I hope they do. I hope they get on their phones. I hope they demand of their representatives, because if they do make those phone calls, and and stories come out about the representatives being inundated with demands for electoral reform, Save the America Act, and it doesn't occur, this is grist to the white hat smell, because now it starts to increase that lack of trust between the electors and their representatives, and the electors are going to say, for God's sake, somebody fix the system. And so it all works beautifully as it goes down the track.
Thank you, sir. You spoke about a moment just now about the critical importance of the 2020 election. And so, I also want to invoke our good friend Juan O'Savin, who sung the jingle for the last several years, laughed at by many, 2020, it ain't over yet. Well, you know what? Juan was right. It isn't over, and it's going to be over, and we are going to be victorious. So thank you, Ricardo Bosi, and our good friend Juan O'Savin. Now, what has inspired you in some recent words, speech, if you will, from Marco Rubio? Walk us through this, if you will.
Sure. Let me just bring this. I'll bring the slides up.
Sure.
Okay. So Marco Rubio made a speech at a ministerial. Let me just advance this. Get rid of that vanity card. Here we go. Rightio. Marco Rubio gave a speech at the ministerial on the resurgence of political terrorism. The nub of the speech, and I'll give you a short excerpt of it, was about left-wing extremism. But there's something else as I listened to it. First of all, kudos to the author of the speech. I don't think that Rubio wrote it himself. If he did, well done. but generally these speeches are written by professional speechwriters, and this is exquisite in its eloquence, in its the way the author has woven together this magnificent tapestry using threads of different colors to produce a wonderful description of what's going on. Now, as I read this to you, please listen to it through the prism of what was intended, an expose of left-wing extremism and the problem that it has caused, particularly since the media and everybody else believes that it's right-wing extremism a problem and left-wing extremism is not a problem at all. It's quite okay, apparently. And that blind spot he addressed. But as you're listening to it, I want you to substitute the word left-wing extremism for evil, the nature of evil in its purest sense. And what the author has done has described magnificently and very accurately the nature of evil. And then we'll go from this speech, and just an excerpt from this speech, into the second part of this presentation, which is moral... Let's just call it, no, what I call it is from art, that's right. From art to godlessness. Anyway, so let's just go and you'll see where we end up, because this is quite important. Okay, this is Marco Rubio's speech. For 25 years, the term counterterrorism, at least in the West, has meant first and foremost the fight against radical Islamist extremism. Our counterterrorism doctrine has had a blind spot when it comes to extremist violence from the political left. Positions of power have repeatedly dismissed acts of violence and even terrorism as legitimate forms of political expression so long as they served a left-wing cause. This is the same in Australia. You remember the gun massacres of Italy's Red Brigades, which held Prime Minister captive for 55 days before executing him in 1978. I certainly remember that. I was already in the army. Red Army faction's nearly 3-decade campaign of bombings, kidnappings, assassinations in Germany, murdering dozens and injuring hundreds more. Marxist extremists of the 17th November organization in Greece that terrorized Athens. 18-month period between 1971 and 1972, the FBI counted some 2,500 bombings on American soil, a rate of nearly 5 a day. The overwhelming share of that violence came from left-wing extremists. But 1970 and 1980, 93% of terrorist attacks in the West came from the far extremist left. Now, this data is probably shocking people, and I hope it does. This is a distinctive and unique evil. This is still Marco Rubio speaking. It has always been driven by a hatred above all else, a hatred for civilization itself. It is a revolt of the worst against the best, a revolt of the weak and the cowardly against the strong and the good. It's perpetrated by those who cannot build, who cannot create, who cannot achieve great things, and take their revenge upon the world for their own inadequacy by seeking to destroy those who can. That's what radical leftism is. Various different slogans and ideologies across place and time. They can call themselves anti-capitalist or anti-imperialist or communist or anarchist or Marxist, but the fundamental character is always the same. A poisonous resentment cloaked in the language of equality and justice and liberation, an overwhelming need to tear down what greater men have built, to wreck what is beautiful and what is right on behalf of the people who are only filled with ugliness and have nothing else to offer the world. Through violence, through terror, they once again seek to impose their ugliness on all of us. The old dogma was wrong. None of this was driven by idealism. It is not utopian. In fact, it is the opposite. One of the sometimes hear of communism, for example, is that it sounds good in theory, but it never works in practice. That's actually not true. Communism does not sound good in theory. The world it envisions for all of us is small, flat, grey, leveled of all exception, drained of all that is good and noble in the human soul. The world it envisions is a world without courage, a world without creativity or ambition, a world without heroes or glory or great causes to strive towards, a world without miracles, without myths. We rise above the rest to do incredible and extraordinary things. And the world communism envisions is a world without God. Magnificent words. Now, if you put the word in evil, that's exactly what evil is. Evil cannot create. Evil can only destroy. It can only reassemble the parts that God created. This is not metaphor. This is real. Now, evil manifests in humans when they start mucking around with DNA, when they want to make you more human than human by making you cyborgs. This is evil attempting to be God because it can't be. And that's what this is. Now, linking that, relativism, the journey from bad art to godlessness. The reason I'm putting this in after that speech is because it's imperative that people understand that we must be stripped of our illusions. This is going to be massively painful for everybody. We believe that we are the creation of ourselves by the responsibility of learning from experience and study. We've created ourselves and we are magnificence incarnate. We are the paragon of animals. Well, not quite. And I'm going to use this as an example. Bad art. Communist by W. Cleon Skousen enumerated the 45 goals in communism. Now, he was an FBI agent, went undercover, attended the communist meetings in the 50s, wrote the book in 57, 58, The Naked Capitalist, The Naked Communist. And he enumerated these goals. And I've been urging people to read the book, read the goals, and just tick off how many have actually been achieved. Here's number 23. And if you haven't read the book, haven't seen the book, strongly recommend you get it. It's worth it. And this will begin to strip you of the nonsense that you thought that you believed because you were just a good person doing the right thing. Number, control art critics and directors of art museums. Our plan is to promote ugliness, repulsive, meaningless art. Now, when I first read this, I was perplexed. Why do they care about art? Why do the communists want to intentionally promote ugliness, repulsive, meaningless art? Well, let's have a look. 1. If nothing is ugly, then nothing is beautiful. If nothing is ugly, then nothing is beautiful. It's all relative. It's truly in the eye of the beholder? Well, you know, Marge's husband's face is like a bucket full of smashed crabs and she loves him, so maybe it's true. Let's have a look. Example, winners of the $100,000 Archibald Prize, Australia's most prestigious portraiture award, is granted by the trustees of the Art Gallery of New South Wales. So let's see the trustees of the Art Gallery of New South Wales to see whether they're dyed-in-the-wool communists or just homosexuals that like doing what they're told. Here's Portrait of a Lady painted in 1923 by W.B. McInnes, and that in fact is his wife. Now this is a portraiture contest. Robert Campbell, the director of the Adelaide Art Museum, painted in 1955 by Ivor Heal. Now Ivor Heal is one of Australia's greatest artists. In fact, he won the Archibald, I think, 4 times in 7 years. If you haven't seen Ivor Heal's art, the Australians should have a look at it. A magnificent artist. Now, let's have a look at more recent winners. These are winners of the $100,000 prize. Stand strong for who you are. Adam Goodes. Adam Goodes is a footballer. He's a brain-dead footballer. This was done in 2020 by Vincent Namatjira. Now, brain-dead I meant by he's an imbecile. And Vincent Namatjira is the great-grandson of Albert Namatjira, Australia's greatest Aboriginal artist, who, with great technical skill with watercolours, painted the Australian outback. And his great-grandson, well, I'm guessing that apple fell a long way from the tree. This is the best Australia could do in 2020, and is the 2026 winner, Iluwanti Ken, who's an elder from the, which tribe? Can't remember. Doesn't really matter. She's black. Goodes is black, therefore it must win. This is the concession that does not help the blacks at all. Giving them a leg up. This isn't giving them a leg up. This is just nonsense. But the artist Richard Lure decided that was his contribution, and that won. So if nothing is ugly, apparently you can't say it's ugly. You can't say the two on the left are magnificent and the other two on the right could have been done by a 6-year-old with a box of paints, because they're all beautiful, apparently. Well, no, it's not. It's garbage, it's rubbish, and it should be called out for what it is. But if nothing is ugly, nothing is beautiful. Step one. So where are we headed? Let's move. If nothing is bad, then nothing is good. If nothing is bad, then nothing is good. So is fat acceptance better than fitness and health? No, you can't be bad. It can't be bad. Look, we must celebrate this. Celebrate this as good. There's not bad. Because what's on is a couple before and after. They decided, you know what, there's a better way to live. No. You can't call that good, because if that's good, then the fat guy on the left is bad. So we can't hurt his feelings. Now, obesity, you'll be dead by your mid-30s, and all these fat champions tend to be dead by their mid-30s. But if nothing's bad, nothing is good. You're starting to see the relativism coming in. Then if nothing is bad and nothing is good, then if nothing is wrong, nothing is right. Is one man's terrorist really another man's freedom fighter? Is there a parallel between an Islamist holding up severed heads to brave soldiers, special air service regiment traveling long ways to save people they don't even know? Is there an equivalency between the two? Absolutely not. Yet we are told to believe that one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. Some things, ladies and gentlemen, are flat wrong and some are flat right. But what the communists want you to do, what the cabal wants you to do, what the people that really run the planet want you to do, is to believe this lie. And we're still. If nothing is profane, is divine. Are full-term and post-birth abortions really healthcare? Rise up for abortion rights, say the gays. Parasites have no rights, say the ladies. And on the other end of the spectrum, you've got abortion regrets and children that actually survive their abortions. The woman on the right there with the brunette hair and the burgundy top survived her abortion. Her mother was injected with a saline solution that was supposed to burn her. Didn't work. She survived. But if life itself is not divine, is not sacred, but is treated as nothing special, and the evidence of that is coming in Australia, where it is now becoming law that bodies may be liquefied and then used as fertilizer. There is no honor for the memory of someone who has died, as exemplified by a service with reverence. But if nothing's profane, then nothing is divine. And now we come to the final step, and you know where we're headed. If there is no devil, there is no God. And this is the end point they intended for us, abandoned without hope. Nothing is ugly, nothing is bad, nothing is wrong, nothing is profane, therefore there's no devil. And that's the devil's greatest trick, to convince us he didn't exist. And if the devil's not there, there is no God. So why the hell do you think we have children with mental disorders and depression? Why are children going off to have euthanasia? Why are children having their breasts removed and their penises removed? We've lost the plot. We have lost the plot. So this is why the communist bad art and to deny us ours. They deny us God while all the while obeying their God. Now, that description that Marco Ruby read out about leftism, we know that leftism isn't real. It's a system designed to destroy the world. We know communists aren't real. It's not real. We know that the cabal believes in nothing. And as you work your way up the ladder, the Committee of 300, families, keep going. Eventually you get to pure evil. And that's what it is. And so all the communists out there and all the socialists and all the lefties and all the pinkos, you are suckers. You need to be stripped of your illusions. But then again, so do the Christians and the Jews and the Sikhs and the Muslims and the Hindus and the Buddhists, all stripped of your illusions. This is the point where humanity must get to. We must see ourselves for what we are as God created us. We must see in everybody else what God created, stripped of our illusions, stripped of the nonsense, and only then can we begin to come together as a people, as a planetary people, with some future of peace and prosperity. Bad art to godlessness. Who'd have thunk it? Okay, and that,
All right.
as they say,
That's
is
a
that.
wrap. Well, first, let me provide some feedback. What an incredible presentation that you've just walked us through, and now the title makes sense to me, having absorbed everything you just presented. The bad art, moral relativism, powerful terms, bad art to godlessness. You know, one of the things, and I've taken away many things, and that work from Skousen is incredible, very eye-opening. Thank you for focusing us on that. When I come out, now this is just a peripheral 40,000, peripheral, one of many, that one can have 40,000 foot view of what I've just seen as I connect a few dots. And I'd like to get your feedback on what I'm about to say. What we see here, dot connecting, July 4th, President Donald J. Trump raised the issue of communism in a very big way. No one was expecting that. Again, expecting unexpected. People were expecting all these other things, so they found that to be a nothing burger as well. And of course, nothing could be further from the truth. But the president hammered communism, July 4th. The president hammered communism as it relates to election theft just the other day in that speech. Then you have, at the same time, talk about coincidences, I don't know, you've got Marco Rubio delivering this incredible speech that you kicked off the presentation with. What was he talking about? Communism. And then the rest of the presentation speaks for itself. I see a common theme here, and it's a C word. What is your view of my analysis of that? What is, years ago, at American Media Periscope, when James Grunvig was my co-host, we spoke about, and others did in our movement as well, that I believe that communism, we may very well see it come to an end on planet Earth in my lifetime. And that's yet to be seen. But I see a lot of dots that are being connected here. July 4th, election speech, Rubio's speech, your presentation. Am I barking up the right tree, as the expression goes?
Yeah, you are, absolutely. And communism will be removed from the face of the earth. It's just a nonsense ideology that only got up because powerful and wealthy people from around the globe, including Americans, promoted the Bolshevik Revolution. They funded the communists. Otherwise, they'd have just died in the garret. Marx himself only survived whilst writing the Communist Manifesto by leeching off Engels, who was a son of a wealthy German industrialist. You can't write this nonsense. Lenin was spirited across Europe into Russia, courtesy. Lived in the United States for a while. Lived high off the hog, not his money, of course, but funded by wealthy people. It's a fiction. It's a creation. It's not real. So take the money out, and what's all of the nonsense that we've had to deal with just collapse and disappear? Communism amongst it. And by the way, communism is actually unconstitutional in the United States. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a proscribed ideology as far as we're concerned. And people say, you can't do that. Yeah, we can. Of course we can. This is our country. We can ban full-term abortions. We can ban post-birth abortions. We can ban Satanism. We can ban anything we want to. It's our country. We get the right to do it. This is human law. You don't like it? Go somewhere else. This is our place. Oh, but freedom of speech. No, there are limits to freedom of speech. And next time I hear of a teacher talking about masturbation to a 6-year-old, I'll express my freedom of rights and lefts, equal rights and lefts, until he stops bloody talking. This is where people have to stand up and realize we have the power to make the laws we want. And if we get it wrong, we'll learn, and then we'll get it right down the track. But that doesn't mean we have to lie supine and allowing every degenerate out there demand of us that which we would never even contemplate in our wildest dreams. Everyone on the planet must understand your country is your country. You get to create the laws. And if you win, great. And if you don't, you'll learn. And then you'll win later. You either win or learn. And that's the way God designed it. That's the way it's supposed to be. And that's the way we have to live.
Well, thank you, sir. Good way to end our broadcast. Bosi Briefs publishes every other Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern. I, for one, am grateful and express my gratitude that Ricardo carves out this time. We are in our second year, sacrificing a portion of his Saturday to spend with you, our viewers, and through this broadcast. So thank you, sir. And to connect up with Ricardo, you can visit jmcbroadcasting.com, hit on contributors page. You'll see his photograph up top, right under 107, his biography, and a link to Ricardo's World, who does a lot of work outside of these broadcasts that he sits in on with me every other week. Also on the Global Defense War Military Panel, which we'll be recording very soon and releasing this month. Also, the 5 Pillars of Real Leadership. Greatness awaits you in its 5th publishing. Pick up a copy of Ricardo's book. You can pick it up at wilkinsonpublishing.com.au, also on amazon.com. This has been a great episode, Ricardo Bosi. Thank you, Colonel, for spending your time with us and breaking down something that wasn't a nothing burger, but an actual full-fledged, delicious 12-ounce steak that was served up to the American people and the world. And your analysis and commentary, keen as always, I greatly appreciate. I'm going to run a clip of the Global Defense War Military Panel. I want you to look at this clip and join Ricardo and our panel coming up very soon here in the month of July. It's in our second year, the Global Defense War Panel. Run the clip, and I'll be right back. Thank you, Ricardo Bosi, sir. Thank you very much.
Join JMC Broadcasting's monthly Global Defense War Military Panel. JMC hosts an esteemed panel of military experts, including Ricardo Bosi, Tom Lennox, Chuck Sellers, Michael Jaco, Derek Johnson, Brad Wozni, and other military guests. Join us each month, where this panel of esteemed guests analyze the current events across a broad spectrum of topics, addressing the questions and concerns that you have. Subscribe for free by visiting jmcbroadcasting.com. John looks forward to seeing you at the next episode of the Global Defense War Military Panel broadcast, right here on jmcbroadcasting.com.
All right. Hey, if you're still here, thanks for sticking around. I'm here. I'm going to wrap up with a reminder of some important announcements. Come join us on July 30th at 8 p.m. Eastern, live. Sheila Holm on screen in our private Zoom room. I'll be there on screen just as your host and moderator. Get your questions answered. Visit jmcbroadcasting.com. You got to click on Premium Portal. Learn about this. See if it's an option for you. And we very much look forward to seeing you there. Also, 107 in Las Vegas again, Storm Summit. Visit stormsummit.us. You can screenshot this image. Better yet, just go to the website. It's all there for you. And we look forward to streaming it for those that cannot attend, that are around the world or within America who just can't get there for one reason or another. That's pretty much a wrap of this particular broadcast of Bosi Briefs. I want to thank Ricardo Bosi, retired Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bosi of Australian One Party, for his keen insights and brilliant analysis, helping us all to make sense of the times and make sense of the madness. Stay safe, everyone, and a special thank you to all of my good friends in Australia. May God be with you.